It's the college football apostles. Your boys are back in town, and we got so much to talk about today because it is less than 100 days away from college football. And we got to talk about EA Sports. They released their football cover. There are some primetime games that we are looking forward to, people. And the Colorado Nebraska game, Lord have mercy, everything is on the stakes for that. And we got to talk about some of these win totals because some of them are pointing out to us, and we got to look at what's going on there. And have you ever heard of the term calamony? If you haven't, we're going to tell you what it is. And Sonny Dykes, the ACC, some of the things we didn't get to last week as well. And I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. This is the College Football Apostles. EA Sports released their cover and the cover athletes, I should say. Now, there may be some different variations of it for the deluxe versions and everything else. How many people are going to be mad when they see this? When they see this version of it? When they see Quinn Ewers, Travis Hunter, they're like, Colorado sucks. Edwards from Michigan State. A Judkins, who's an Ole Miss transfer from Ohio State. Beck in the background from Georgia, and Jalen Milroe from Alabama. Then you can see a Notre Dame helmet. See, what's that? A Clemson helmet. An Oregon helmet is clearly visible. Ole Miss in the distance. Some flags that you might recognize. Did they get this right?
I guess I got really caught up in the conversation about the cover for like 5 seconds, and then I had to remind myself. I have a question for you, George, and maybe you'll get you to the same place I am mentally on this. When was the last time your kids bought a physical copy of a video game?
I can't remember. Oh, I know what it was. Um, it was. It's always been for the Switch. And for the Nintendo Switch, they've gotten some covers. I mean, some physical video games for the Nintendo Switch. But aside from that, nope, nothing, buddy.
Yeah, my kids have like the PS Plus or whatever. Like the only physical copies of video games that so it hit me. I was like, "Oh, does the cover actually matter?" Because this isn't NC. A lot has changed since NCAA 14 came out, which is
Yeah.
the copy that I'm still playing on PS3. Like I still have it. I still every January I'll run like 30 seasons for University of Wyoming or University of Idaho or something like that. But there's not going to really be physical copies, and so like do we need to have
Yeah,
the
but you still
argument
see it.
over
Yeah,
the
you
cover?
still see it every time you go to it. You see that thumbnail. You see
Yeah.
it. And you
Well,
are reminded that your team stinks. When- that
my
your
okay.
team was not worthy of being on this cover.
I will say two things. If we can get past the fact that at one point Jared Zabransky of Boise State was the cover athlete, like I think people can get over it. They can be fine. But I do think one fan base has the right to be upset.
Who?
One, Ole Miss.
Why?
Because they are a consensus top 10 team.
They haven't done anything in history. Like the one time that they were supposed to be good, they weren't. I don't think that they're a big enough brand and have been consistent enough to where they're going to drive interest all year. But you might say, oh, well, how about Colorado? Well, Travis Hunter is going to drive interest all year, and so is Colorado, no matter what.
So, but my issue isn't with Ole Miss being left off, George. That's not my issue.
What is it?
My issue is that Ohio State has one of the best defenses of all time heading into this season, at least on paper. And they picked an Ole Miss transfer to be the Ohio State cover
instead of like
That's
Caleb Downs. Oh, they could have picked Caleb Downs too. Or JT Tuimalau. That would have been an option for them. I would not have minded that.
Yeah, and ransom like there's a bunch of options that they have, but they went with a dude who. So not only does Ole Miss not get anybody on the cover, the running back who left is Ohio State's representative. So they get a double shot of disrespect. And so that's what I was saying. My only issue is, Dave, I'm an Ole Miss fan. I'm looking at this and I'm still buying the game, but I'm mad.
Okay, that makes sense. So we'll see what happens with the rest of the covers. But
I have a
we all
question for you about the price.
okay.
The price. There's a
I didn't see
$70
what the
version.
price is. This was one of those. It didn't really matter. I didn't look at the. I didn't look at the sticker on it when it comes time to purchase it. I'll just be like, oh damn, whatever.
Okay.
Like, it's one of those.
There's 3 price points. One is 70. One is the deluxe edition is 100. And the MVP bundle, which I think might include Madden, is 150. How much would this game, the base edition of this game, how much would it have to cost for you to have like a second thought about buying it?
Anything over $120.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've been so in on this that, but however, though, if the game is like one of those flawed years of Madden where it's like a mid-year of Madden, then now you've now lowered what I will pay for it the next year. So I'm so priced into it this year because of my anticipation and my dude, it's like Chick-fil-A being closed on Sunday. Like
Would you pay double on Sunday?
Yes, I would pay double on Sunday for Chick-fil-A to be open.
Okay. Would you pay double on Monday?
No, I would not pay double on Monday because Chick-fil-A is open on Monday. So that's the point, is that you actually get something like it's like
So that's
it's like getting something when it's not available. Like, you know that if you order, that if you ask, a doctor to come to your house at 2:00 in the morning versus 2:00 in the afternoon, it's going to cost more money.
True. The way I look at it, though, is that EA has actually saved me about $750 by not dropping for the last 11 years.
Oh,
so the way I look
they
at
could
it
actually
is like,
charge you $750 for the game or less, and you would feel like you were getting a rebate.
oh, for sure, because that's money I was going to give you anyway. I stayed playing NCAA 14 for 11 years.
Yep. All right, next thing up. So the primetime games, obviously we've known who they're going to be, but just seeing them in person and knowing that it's less than 100 days away, I want to know from this list, from the week 1 games, Ralph. And well, there's a week 0 game on here that I think is intriguing too. But from this list of games, which one is like, what's most sticking out to you? Because you got, for those audio listeners, we have North Dakota State at Colorado, which is a week 0 game. And then for week 1, you're going to have, oh, wait, actually, no. Excuse me. That is a week 1 game. And then you have, but it's just on Thursday. You have the Saturday game, Clemson, Georgia, Miami, and at Florida, Notre Dame at Texas A&M, USC versus LSU, and Boston College at Florida State. If you could only watch one of those games, which one are you watching?
Ooh, that's a good way to phrase that question. I think Miami at Florida is the one that interests me the most because Billy Napier's on the thinnest of thin ice.
Yes.
Mario Cristobal is on ice.
Yes.
We don't know if it's thin or not.
He's skating,
we cannot,
bro.
we cannot ascertain the thickness of the ice that Mario Cristobal is walking on right now. But both of these fan bases are very eager to get back. Both of them have undergone a lot of change in the offseason. Yeah. Both of them, I feel like, have recruited at a high level. Miami maybe higher, arguably, than Florida. I think this game just matters a lot to a lot of people. Clemson versus Georgia, they've opened the season before, didn't necessarily impact the outcome of, ugly game, like 3-0 fourth quarter type stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily impact people's mindsets going forward. Notre Dame, Texas A&M is interesting, but I don't think there's an onus on A&M to win. The most important game here to me seems like Miami at Florida. North Dakota State, Colorado. I've learned my lesson from the NDSU Arizona game,
Do not
which
count them
was
boys out, buddy. Do not count
no, but
North.
you said Arizona's winning guaranteed. I said Arizona never should have scheduled the game.
Oh yeah.
Arizona did win that game. I feel like Colorado's probably in the same place. They should
Yeah.
win.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't
It would
schedule
take
these boys though.
yes. I
Don't
actually
schedule
think
North
the
Dakota
most important. So I actually would put
ever.
Miami at Florida as the second most important game. I would actually put
Okay.
USC LSU as the most important game because this is going to send these two teams in one of two directions. Both of their defenses were horrendous last year. Horrendous. And they both have new quarterbacks. LSU is going to be, USC is going to be trotting out Miller Moss as their quarterback. We are going to, I guess, assume that LSU is going to be Garrett Nussmeier, that he's going to be there. So you have two inexperienced guys at quarterback, two defenses that were trash. Neither one of them was able to beef up their defensive line like they wanted to in the offseason. And so so if LSU wins this game, Brian Kelly is feeling good about himself. He's like, okay, now our season has an opportunity. If they lose this game, Ralph, it is going to be, and they give up a lot of points, it's going to be a disaster. And USC fans who don't show up to the spring game, they are going to be discouraged if they lose this game, Ralph.
I agree. I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think the over under is? Because it's already set 5 months out. What do you think the over under is for LSU USC? Because they're going
I'm
to go
gonna
off the reputation of two teams that don't play defense.
let's go 68.
That you hit it. It's 67.5.
What?
5 months out. The
Yes.
the Clemson Georgia total is absurdly high. It's
What is
48.5 right now.
48 and a
48 and a
half?
half.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that
48 and a
that's
half.
48
Yeah.
and a half. That's 24 points apiece. That doesn't feel high to me.
Wasn't this a 9-3 game just 2 years ago?
Yeah, but the difference is that Carson Beck is there. Clemson is not what Clemson was. Oh my God. And of that 48, I'm just looking right now, Georgia's favored by 13 points. So
That's hilarious to me.
yeah. So I think that that LSU USC game, that is the one. Because peep this, Ralph. Peep this. With LSU schedule, right?
Yeah.
And USC schedule. So after that SC game, LSU gets Nickel State win. Then they're at South Carolina, UCLA, and you can't lose to USC and UCLA or either one of them really, but especially not UCLA. They'll beat South Alabama. Then they got Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. So if they don't win that USC game, bro, they could be staring at 4 losses on the year, and that's not gonna go
Yeah.
over well with their fan base.
But I guess you're right. It wouldn't go over well. But the reason I disagree with it being the most important game is because there is no inherent risk for Brian Kelly to lose his job this year, and there's no inherent risk for Lincoln Riley to lose
Oh, I do think that they're. Oh, I think that on Lincoln Riley's side, I think that they would have to figure out the buyout
The
money.
point
But I
season.
do, but I do think that people would want him gone though. See, because they go LSU, Utah State, at Michigan, and if they start out 1-2, and then play Wisconsin, and that's a toss-up game. At Minnesota's a toss-up. Penn State, like they could be. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They could be 3-3 after 6 games, and still got Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, uh, UCLA, and Notre Dame left. They could be staring at a bunch of losses, but we're going to talk about them in a minute when we get to the win totals, because I do love this slate of games. I love that it started like this, and just if we can get the SEC to start playing 9 conference games, everything will be better. That means that we won't have any weeks throughout the entire year where we have, a mid slate of games. Please, please, people, I'm begging you, SEC, begging you, and ACC too. I'm begging you, please, 9 conference games. All right, now on to the win. Oh, actually, sorry, excuse me. On to the. This is a week 2 game, and we talked about this on a Frayed show, so you guys can go watch the video, everything. So the Colorado Nebraska game, Ralph,
Mm-hmm.
that is week 2. That game feels like for Colorado that's their LSU USC game. That's the game that is going to send the season either left or right, because Nebraska's trying to rekindle some greatness. Actually, they're not even trying to rekindle greatness. They're trying to rekindle bowl game eligibility first. 7 consecutive losing seasons. You got to go all the way back to 1957, where since you can find, if you add up, don't count these last 7, and then to find 7 losing seasons, it'll take you get back to 1957. So Ralph, this team, this is a must win for them. Must win for Nebraska. And for Colorado, if they have any hopes of anything over 6 wins, this is a must win.
I agree. Um, this is, I mean, I feel like you're even underselling it. This is like the Super Bowl for both teams. This, it's appointment view. There, I mean, there's a few games on Colorado's schedule that like are appointment viewing.
Yeah,
I
for
can't,
sure.
I can't believe that I have had a countdown clock since 1 week before Colorado State in 2023 to Colorado State 2024. Like from a week before that game even kicked off, I was like, I can't wait for this game and next year's game.
Yep.
But the Nebraska one, because first of all, Colorado smoked Nebraska last year. It was their biggest win in that rivalry in 14 years, which I think was the last time that they had been playing yearly games, and then they
Yep.
both left the Big 12. Um, like Nebraska wants this game so bad, like more than any game on their schedule. This is the one that they care about because the rivalry's back. They're back to playing each other, even if they're not in the same conference. They hate each other. Um, and now you add the Deion element to the mix. Pressure of Nebraska getting the number 1 quarterback recruit, Colorado getting the number 1 offensive line recruit. There's so much pressure on Deion and Matt Rhule,
Yes.
and it's going to be in Lincoln. So, like Colorado fans aren't even going to be able to get into this game.
Oh, this is a proof of concept game. This is a proof of concept game, and I am like Nebraska and Matt Rhule have to prove that they're moving in the right direction, and Deion is trying to prove his proof of concept that not high school recruiting at a high level, and that I can keep swapping players out every year, and that this will work, because he's got to prove. I mean, if you're Deion, really, you got to prove that there's something worth kids signing up for after Shador and Shiloh leave. that there is magic still there. Well, and Travis Hunter too, when he leaves after this year, that there is magic there. That this is a special place that you need to sign up for because you can too have this here. Because if not, Seton will be in the transfer portal and at the University of Oregon next year. And anybody else that is any good on that football team. But let's look at that Colorado for a second. We already talked about their North Dakota State Week 1 game. Then they're at Nebraska, at Colorado State. Ralph, if they don't start out 3-0, if they start out 2-1, okay. But then they go Baylor, UCF, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincy, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. And I want to bring this up because handicapping these games for people is going to be tough. And this is why you need to be here on the Unafraid Show on College Football Apostles, because we know these teams. We know these Pac-12 teams that are going over, the Pac-12 teams that are deep in there, that are gonna be in the Big 12, Big 10, as well. We know what's going on with them people, okay? And there are few people that have covered these teams and know them in depth like we know them. So this is why you need to be here and share it with a friend. So go ahead, smash that like button, tell everybody about it, share the feed, and leave a comment as well. So I'm looking at this Colorado schedule, Ralph, and if they don't win this Nebraska game, this sends them in a totally different direction for projection, because I think that they believe that they can win the Big 12, which I don't think they can. But if they don't start out 3-0, if they can't beat Nebraska, there's no way they're going to win the Big 12. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't put that much emphasis on it because last year they smashed Nebraska in the second game of the season, and then they went 1-8 in conference. So
yeah,
I don't think there's a
Pac-12 was also like the strongest that it's maybe ever been.
But I'm saying that there's no correlation. There's no correlation. Like I would be more worried about the pressure that would increase internally, because there's a lot of people that have had to. Any fan base does this. Any and every fan base does this. When your coach does and says some wild stuff, you gotta suit up. You gotta put on the armor. You gotta go out into the internet streets, and you gotta go to battle. And Colorado fans are exhausted right now because he has these boys.
They're working on full max. They're working 24/7.
Mm-hmm. And so, you already got your internet soldiers stressed out. If you go out there, you get beat by Nebraska, it's going to be tough sledding. Like it's going to slow down a lot of that support. You need that energy going into the Colorado State game. They almost got you last year. Like, so I don't know. I just I think it's a very important game just for how your own fan base feels about you, because how the world feels about you doesn't matter. We've realized that 99% of the college football ecosphere is looking at Deion Sanders after this last offseason and Shador's antics and dropping a song and talking about players that didn't used to be on the team, and flexing the watch and talking about cars and all that stuff. And they're looking at Deion saying he's going to be a top 5 pick, Deion jumping in the mix and going after kids that are on other teams. They're looking at him and being like, you're ridiculous. Yeah. Like, this is all completely ridiculous. How come Colorado fans can't see it? Well, because they're fans, and it's their job to not see it. But they have been at war defending this man. And if they lose to Nebraska like that, it's just going to get that much harder. So that's why I think this game is so important, just for the internal stuff. And Nebraska's got to be exhausted, man. They show up every single year, 10 toes down, repping the Big Red, only to
selling out just to get let down.
Just to go 3-6 in the Big Ten. Like, that's become they Nebraska went 34 straight years spending at least part of the season in the top 10. 34 straight years from
now they're just hoping to be ranked.
Yes.
Now they're like, oh man, it would be nice to see a number in front of our name.
But to see Deion get you 2 years in a row after you're paying an average of $10 million a year to Matt Rhule.
Oh man, I can't relate. I don't even know what that's like to have a team that's not ranked. That sucks. All right, so the now we want to look at what?
Okay.
All right, so now it is win total time, people. Win total time. So there are some ones that, and we'll get more and more into them as the season, I mean, as we get closer and closer to the season. But there are a couple that we pointed out that we wanted to examine. And there was one from the SEC, I mean, well, from the ACC that we're looking at, and that is the and that's the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes, Ralph, their over under for wins is 9.5. And if Mario Cristobal wins 9.5 games, if he wins 9 games, the fan base is going to be happy. If they don't win 9 games, they are going to be like pissed off. If he wins 9 or more games, they're going to be ecstatic. If he does not, it is going to be a major problem, especially with his quarterback situation where he's got Cam Ward, who came from Washington State, throwing for 1 trillion yards. And if he can't then translate, because he has not put out good quarterback play, he's not. His quarterback's Van, uh, the kid that was there last
Tyler
year.
Van Dyke.
Yes,
Tyler
Tyler
Van
Van
Dyke.
Dyke. I have TVD. And even Justin Herbert didn't put up great stats in college. So he hasn't had great quarterback stat play. And if this happens to Cam Ward too, this is a crystal ball problem and not a player problem. Can we establish that?
Yeah, I mean he reminds me very much of like, the best way to understand really like in MMA in the UFC there are some of the world's best wrestlers, right? Best wrestlers on earth. And if they get you down on the ground, it's probably over. They might not
Yep.
choke you out like a jujitsu specialist. They might not clean your clock like a boxer. But if they get you on the ground, they'll keep you there for 5 straight rounds, and they'll get the win. It's not sexy, and it's not fun, and it's not a knockout, and it's not a chokeout. And that feels very much like if you've rooted for any Mario Cristobal coach teams, that feels very much like what his goal has been. It's been to physically dominate you for 60 minutes, and he doesn't care if it looks flashy or
Well, the
sexy
problem,
or anything like
see,
that. But the
see, but the
problem
pro,
with taking a game to the 60th minute is you put yourself at risk.
yes, that's it. And I didn't look at this until after he left Oregon, Ralph. I was like, hold up. And when we started knocking the doors off of people again in games that you should, I was like, this is weird. And I was looking back, I can't remember very many blowouts, even in games that you should be blowing people out. Like games are closer than they should be. And some of those games they lost simply because a penalty goes your way, somebody makes a heroic catch. It's like something weird happens, and now you're in a dogfight and you're not able to overcome that particular thing. So I think that that's a problem. But let's look at this 9.5 games, Ralph. Are you projecting them over under that 9.5? So they got Florida, Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville, Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. They do not have like I don't think that they're gonna. I think Florida State, maybe Louisville, are the only teams on their schedule that are going to be ranked at any point in time this season, probably.
Mm.
May yeah, maybe Duke, maybe at some point in time, but probably not at the end of the season. So with only two teams with winning records on your, I mean, sorry, with that are even possible to be ranked at any point in time in the season, including Florida State, I don't think that you can that like anything under that 9.5. So anything under 10 games would has to feel like a failure because they can accept the Florida State loss. But what other game on their schedule can you really accept a loss in with how much they've put into recruiting financially and where their classes have been ranked?
Even 10-2 with Florida State and Florida being your losses feels gross.
Because because now the only team you're better than in Florida is South Florida and Florida A&M
Right.
and maybe UCF,
So
but they might
right.
beat you
So
too.
that feels gross. 10 wins with a loss to a clearly inferior team when it comes to recruiting rankings feels gross. This is really like 11-1 or else. Kinda. It kind of that's the way it kind
If they Ralph, if they win 9 games,
of feels back out of the portal.
yep, they got Cam Ward out the portal.
So
It's going to
I mean,
be
it's to me it's 11 or bust.
yeah, that that makes a lot of sense. Like you gotta damn. Okay, so I am going to take the under on this 9.5. I think that they're going to be at 9. I think that they're going to find a way to lose a couple of games. They're for sure going to lose the Florida State game, and they'll find a way to lose 2 other games. And so, yeah, I'm going to put them at 9-3 in the regular season. Now, mind you, if they bowl game, I'm just talking about the regular season. So, um, so are you taking the over or the under on Miami?
I would take the over if I was going to take this one. If I would take the over. It's a scary one. I want to stay away from it. I don't consider betting on a Mario Cristobal coach team to exceed expectations to be a smart bet because name one that ever did it.
Yeah.
Maybe his first year at Oregon,
Yep.
maybe. So, if I had to bet it, I would take the over because I think it is smarter than assuming that they're going to lose to a Duke without Riley Leonard or something like that. But
But they
if
do
you're just
have
going off of
Malik just transferred from Texas. Hmm. So we'll see. Um, Now on to we picked out a couple of Big Ten teams too, and one of them that I am high on this year, and it's all because number one, Penn State's defense has been incredible. I just don't know how Drew Aller can't get better. Like he has to get better. Like that had to be when James Franklin changed their offensive coordinator. That had to be the sole focus of the entire offense is getting Drew Aller better. Like that had to be it. Because that's the difference between them beating Ohio State last year and not. That's the difference. Is Drew Aller playing good football? So I'm looking at their schedule. West Virginia, Bowling, their over under is 10. West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. The only spot I can find a loss is possibly to Ohio State. But if Drew Aller does not play well, they're going to lose another game as well. They're going to go 10-2 if Drew Aller is not playing good football. If he's playing good football, they have a chance at 12-0.
yeah, um, they do have a chance. You know what? What's weird is Penn State fans will tell you that Drew Aller actually wasn't that bad because his 25 touchdown passes last year is third all time in a single season for them. That his completions was sixth all time in a single season for them.
Well, the problem is that you don't win games on the stat sheet. We watch the games.
Percentage all time. And yes, yes, point taken. But also, your totals suck historically because you adapted late. Now you got to get on the same page that everybody else does. Just because he's elevated in school history doesn't mean that that's going to be what it takes to actually win. Look at what Justin Fields or CJ Stroud did at Ohio State. Like, that is what it takes to
Yep.
win at that level. And they it's not like either one of them is a national championship, but that's what it takes to be in the conversation. That's what it takes to beat you at Penn State is a competent passing attack. You have to be able to have that as well. And it can't be the weather and it can't be your history. So Rhule Aller, yes, statistically is one of the best Penn State quarterbacks ever already at age 20. But hey, but sometimes them's the breaks. Sometimes your franchise history dictates that. You and I talked the other day on the phone about the fact
So
that
you're saying that they're like the Chicago Bears?
I'm saying that maybe you don't. I'm saying they're like the Denver Broncos, right? Like the Denver Broncos have a storied history, but the truth of the matter is John Elway's most touchdowns he ever threw in a season was 27.
Oh,
But
okay. I get what
he
you're saying.
did what it took in certain moments. But even his played in 5 Super Bowls and he has like 3 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. But yet people remember John Elway as one of the best ever because he got it done when it mattered most and he did it at the end. So you don't need to be the biggest stat stuffer in the world at Penn State. You just got to be able to win games. And like you said, eyeball test, fourth quarter, Rhule Aller's got to be that dude. Even if going into the fourth quarter, he's only got 110 yards passing. You would rather that as a Penn State
be
fan
like,
than
Michigan just did it. Michigan just did it. We'll be fine. All right. All right. The next team from the Big Ten is USC.
coming off that.
The next team from the Big Ten that we were going to talk about is USC. And USC, Ralph, their over under is 7.5. So Lincoln Riley, this is his 3rd season. If you told USC fans that in his 3rd season, the over when he was first hired, that in his 3rd season, the over under for his win total for their 3rd season would be 7.5, would they have believed you? And how would they have reacted if they would have said that we would give Lincoln Riley like $110 million and in his 3rd year, his over under would be projected at 7.5?
That's a crazy way to look at that. I don't think it would feel great. That's a wild way to look at it. Would you take this if this is what your projection would be 3 years in? Do they also get the information that they only won 7 games last year coming off a Heisman?
Yes.
Because I'd imagine that would be hard to process. I think there's probably a lot of USC fans that are just smashing the over and thinking they're being disrespected.
Okay.
To be honest,
So,
USC is still in a position where they can just blame all this on Alex Grinch.
Okay. So I am taking I think that they will win in between 6 and 9 games. Okay. And it all is going to depend on Miller Moss and that defense. But I'm going to take the over. I'm going to put them at 8 wins. So, and are you taking the over or under of that 7.5?
This is another one I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, but I do think if you made me decide, talent alone makes me want to take the over. I think the most fascinating thing about this season is you have a quarterback that has been in Lincoln Riley's system. Like, this is where you find out if Lincoln Riley can develop, right? You have a quarterback that Lincoln Riley didn't recruit, that has been in his system for 2 years, looked good in one bowl game, and then USC made a decision based off of how he looked in that bowl game, not off of what they think they knew they had at the time. Which means we got to go back to the fact that coaches have literally no idea what a quarterback can do until they get thrown out there. They have no idea. They never have.
Yeah.
And so
they hope.
So what we know right now is that Lincoln Riley didn't understand what Miller Moss was. He feels like he does now. and they're going with him. Now we get to find out, can you develop under Lincoln Riley? And I'm fascinated by that. But on talent alone, speed alone, I want to say 8 wins should be the basement. I would
Okay.
I would
Okay.
say
So
over.
LSU, or is that a win or a loss?
I think that that's probably a loss.
Okay. They'll beat Utah State at Michigan, win or loss.
I think they'll win that game.
Okay. Wisconsin,
I think they'll win that game.
Minnesota,
Win.
at Minnesota,
Win.
October 5th.
I think they win.
Okay. Um, Penn State,
I think that's a loss.
okay, at Maryland.
Win.
Rutgers,
Win.
at Washington. Mm, at Washington with Jed Fish, that retooled roster. Their win total is about the same. Are you going with that one as a win or a loss?
I think that they will lose to Washington.
Okay. Nebraska,
Win.
at
They'll
UCLA.
win.
Notre Dame.
Win.
Notre Dame.
Loss. Loss.
Okay, so you got them at 8-4 then.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We're at about the same. I do believe that they're going to lose to Michigan though. So that means that they got to
Michigan graduated everybody.
Yeah, but hey, listen. Sometimes you are so deep that it doesn't matter. And they develop. All right, so that's USC. Now on to our SEC teams. Now this one is very interesting because we've heard Josh Pate banging on this team, bro, and that is Florida. Oh, they have the toughest schedule ever known to man in the history of football. And their over under for wins, Ralph, is 5. When they hired Billy Napier, if you had told them that in his third season that their over under for wins would be 5, would they have believed you? Probably not.
Yeah, that's tough. 5 is so low.
Yeah. Look at this schedule. Okay, so I'm going to take the over just because 5 is so incredibly low. I just refuse to believe that they're going to win 5 games. Miami, win or loss?
I think they win.
Okay.
I think they shock people.
Yep, I agree too. They are going to beat Samford. Then how about Texas A&M?
Where is that?
In Gainesville.
I think they can win.
I do too. At Mississippi State.
This young Mississippi State team, I think they get that as well.
Yep, I do too. Then you got UCF.
At home?
Yep.
Win.
October 5th.
I think they win.
Ooh, I think that's going to be a tough one. But I'll give them a win there. At Tennessee. I got that as a loss.
Yeah, me too.
Kentucky.
Loss.
Yep. Georgia and Texas. Both of those are losses.
Yeah.
LSU.
Loss.
Ole Miss.
Loss.
Florida State.
Loss.
How many wins did we get to, Ralph?
Well, I think 5, 4.
Yeah, 4 to 5 wins, buddy.
Either way, I mean it's 5 flat. It's not like 5.5. So yeah, I don't think I'm betting the over on that one.
Yeah, damn. I'm taking the under.
Florida's schedule reminds me of the back half of that Pittsburgh Steelers schedule.
God, bro, this is brutal. Lord have mercy. So yeah, to make it a long story short, Billy Napier is in trouble. If he breaks 7 wins out of this, he might get an extension. Even though the fans are going to be like, we only won 7 games. Bro, you should be freaking happy if you win 7 games out of this. All right. The last team from the SEC that we wanted to talk about, Oklahoma, Ralph. Oklahoma. They are going into the SEC. Win total 7.5. People do not believe in them. And I'm like, I don't understand why people do not believe in them, Ralph. Like they are looking at this team and they're like, yeah, nah. I know that they have a young quarterback, but even with having a young quarterback, it would just be wild to me for them to not be able to put together 7.5 wins. So that's exactly. And if Jackson Arnold is good, like Oklahoma fans think that they like that he is so good that they're fine with getting rid of Dylan Gabriel, who was a good quarterback. They got Temple and Houston and Tulane. They should win all 3 of those first games. So then they got. Are you taking the over or under in the 7.5, Ralph?
Over.
Yes, I am too. They got Tennessee after that. Then they're at Auburn. Think that they'll go 4-1 to start the season. Then they got Texas lost. They can beat South Carolina. The Ole Miss game could be tough. They're gonna beat Maine. Then they got Missouri and Alabama, which both games they can win. This could be they could be staring at 9 wins right in the face and on the cusp of making the college football playoff, the 12-team playoff.
There's only one time since 1999, one time where they won less than 8 games.
But
They
they're
are
going
on
to
a
the SEC now, Ralph. They're out of that sorry Big 12. And their fans are going to be like, "Oh, we're
they're on
out of here."
24 seasons in a row. They have at least at some point been in the top 10. They're elite. They're a college football blue blood. 7.5 is a crazy insult they can hang in the SEC. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, I do too. All right, those are the win totals, and we're going to get into more as the season goes on. But there's a term that we need to tell you about. This term is called calimony. Now, you've heard of alimony in divorces, but calimony. And the University of California, Los Angeles, so UCLA, when they left to go to the Big Ten, they left and Cal got left in a lurch, and the UC Board of Regents, because they're in the same university system, like so much so that Cal, UCLA, UC Davis, all the UCs, all their colors are blue and yellow on some level. Blue and yellow, blue and gold, like they're all the same colors. All part of the same university system. And they said that they were not going to allow. Well, Gavin Newsom, the governor, got involved in it, and it became political. And now UCLA has to pay Cal $10 million a year for the next 6 years in calimony because UCLA is going to the Big Ten. Cal did not get an invite. They ended up in the SEC on a reduced share. And they were like, and then California, the state of California, the regents was like, we need to subsidize some of Cal's money. So they're going to be subsidizing Cal $10 million a year from a team, Ralph, a school that has an athletic department budget deficit. They already are having financial problems, and you're going to force an extra $10 million on them. How does this make any sense? Yeah. This has got to be one of the most harebrained things that we've had anybody do.
This doesn't sound that different than any divorce. That's why I love the term calimony, is that we get to complain about whether or not it was fair, because the intent of this was to give UCLA permission to do what they did, essentially retroactively. because plotting with your rival to leave the conference, which ultimately helped break the conference, um, is kind of like sneaking out on your spouse. So you gotta pay a little bit for the sin or whatever.
Say,
But
say, I've grown
but
accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
yes,
That's what this is.
yes. But the funniest part about it is that when they initially agreed to this, it was that the amount will be somewhere between 2 and 10 million. That's such a huge window. I don't think anybody ever thought that it would be the max,
Why would you ever
especially.
allow a window that big? See, that was the problem, is that they were like, we'll get them with the between 2 and 10, and then we and that's never going to be the two. It was never going to be the two.
I just love. I mean, UCLA is gonna be mad at Cal for a long time. Um, Cal fans are very entertained by this. It's very, very funny to them. It's going to be obviously a big help,
Well, the biggest issue is going to
but
be
it's
when
going to be like UCLA shouldn't have even moved.
yeah, because they're going to get the same amount of money. Well, sort of. But then, are they going to try to retroactively go back to court and get more money when the ACC breaks up? That's going to be the question.
Cal or UCLA
Cal,
trying to get some of their money
Cal,
back.
is Cal going to go try when the ACC breaks up? Are they going to then go back and be like, listen, we need a modification of this calimony?
I hope so. Like, not even. I'm not saying I hope it happens or I hope it works in their favor. I'm just saying it would be very funny for them to say like, "Hey, we need um we need a little bit of extra help this month on top of the
Yes.
800K check you cut us every month."
Yes. All right. And now speaking of that, so Sonny Dykes, head coach over at TCU, who had been at Cal, he spoke up and decided to say that there are two different college footballs. There's the college football that the Alabamas, the Oregons, the Georgias, and Clemson's are playing, and then there is the college football that in Division One, that the Louisiana Techs, even the Vanderbilts, and even though that they're getting big time money, and Nevadas and stuff like that, that they're playing two different versions of college football.
Hmm.
That there is no competition, and that they basically should be split up into two divisions. I don't like that, Ralph. I don't like that
Okay.
because I have been a long believer that everybody should negotiate their TV rights together, right? It will create more parity and more NFL like results. And I know that the individual schools, Oregon doesn't want that. Alabama does not want that. Georgia does not want that. Ohio State does not want that. Greg Sankey does not want that. The commissioner of the Big Ten, they do not want that because any level of parity or where the money is distributed, so now everybody's kind of, even though the bigger brands are still going to produce more money, any level of parity in that can cause other people to rise up. Like, look at the NFL. Yes, the Chiefs are really good right now. Like the Patriots were dominant for a while, for 20 years. There comes a point now where after that 20 years, the Patriots stink. And when Patrick Mahomes leaves, the damn Chiefs are going to stink for a while. And the Alabamas, the Georgia, like all those schools, they don't want the stink for a while. They don't want other people to be able to come up, like where the Patriots were way up here, Chiefs were, down. Now it's completely flipped. They don't want that. They do not want that. And Sonny Dykes is right, but I do think for the long-term health of college football that you do need to have more parity. And that I'm hoping that the access with the 12 and 14 team playoffs, that like we're seeing more five stars go to different places and all of that, that we're seeing more, that we're seeing less depth on rosters, like where you don't have uh you know 10 NFL guys and then 10 more, then 10 more, then 10 more in every single class. That way now you got 10, then 6, then 5, then 10, like on your classes, and they're more spread out. So that means that every single week, that means these lines are going to get tighter and tighter. Like I want it to where there's never lines over like 20 points. If the line stays somewhere in between 1 and 13, bro, that is great for college football. If every single week, that's why people love the NFL so much, because everybody can win.
Yes. I love the idea of breaking it up. I love the idea. I think that a system of college football that is closer to Premier League or European soccer would be fascinating.
Oh, with
To
relegation?
where, yes, to where you
Oh
have
God.
the, yeah,
I throw my plan out the window and I will sign up for relegation.
because if you have uh FCS, G5 or G6 or whatever it is now, and the P4, and the bottom team in every conference, or the bottom two teams in every conference, is paired up with a sister G6 conference, and you have the ability to like 1 year flip the bottom and the top, or 2 year block flip the bottom and the top.
Mm,
um I think it would be fascinating. Like, obviously people are not going to want to give up their contractual monetary rights. I think it should apply to football only.
yeah.
Uh, and I think you should continue to get paid. Like, if you start out the contract getting SEC money, but you have to drop out of the SEC because you're not doing anything, Vanderbilt, and then you end up winning at the G6 level and you bounce back up, you don't lose any money. So you're not risking your
Mm,
money. I think people would agree with it. And is what the
oh,
top teams and what the networks want anyway. It's why they've made it so that the one G5, G6 representative is getting screwed over if they make a college football playoff appearance. So let's just get rid of them altogether. Don't let it affect basketball, because people love the Cinderellas in basketball. But honestly, in football, I think Sonny Dykes is right. I think they're the haves and the have-nots. Rooting for upsets is fun. You could still schedule these out-of-conference or these non-league games as part of your schedule. But I think putting a little bit of extra risk on it is something that you should do. I'm going to be honest, this is going to sound really nerdy, but this is the way that I play NCAA 14. Because going into every new season in franchise mode, you have the ability to reorganize conferences. And that's what I do. I will take the worst team in the SEC and I will put them in the American Conference. And I'll
yeah.
take the team that won the American Conference and I'll put them in the SEC. I do it every single year. It's a lot of fun. And so I think Sonny Dykes is right. And I think there's something that can be done about it that is win-win-win for everybody involved.
Ralph, I think you're on to something, buddy. Think you are on to something. I would absolutely sign up for that, buddy. Sign me up. Sign me the hell up, because that is a genius ass idea. I'm in on on relegation. So everything I said prior, I mean, I still love my idea, but that one's even greater. And
Can you imagine how funny it is though that, like, if that system was in place, Colorado would be like in the Mountain West right now.
Oh man, hey, you never know. But you guys, that is College Football Apostles on the Unafraid Show. I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. Peace out. Catch you guys next week.